everyone, it's Dr. Julie coming to you with a really special Mission Monday. Dr. Julie Nudge of Encouragement. Why is it special? Well, it has been 10 years since I worked with the really cool docudrama, What's Eating You on E! Network. And I got to tell you, I still have people reaching out to me and mentioning kind of that series and just wonderfully that it help them in bits and pieces in their recovery process. And I actually had that experience this morning. I had somebody within our really incredible virtual global community, Circle of Hope, reach out and say, hey, Dr. Julie, can you do a video talking about that scribble drawing exercise you did in What's Eating You? And they actually said that it was really influential in their positive growth experience moving forward. So I decided that I was going to axe the Mission Monday that I was going to do today. And instead, I am going to take this wonderful opportunity and talk a little bit about that scribble drawing exercise because I've gotten so many inquiries from both people that use it in their own recovery process, but also therapists that reached out and said, what the heck was that technique? Well, just to back up a little bit, What's Eating You was a docudrama that was in 2010. I thought it was a fabulous show. Unfortunately, it only ran for one season, but it featured 12 courageous participants that really allowed their eating disorder recovery process to be chronicled on therapy. Or on TV. It was all real therapy. It featured 3 therapists, myself, a therapist out of LA, and a therapist out of New York, as well as our nutritional team. And it allowed us for 6 weeks to film numerous therapy sessions a week in our office. Yep, they were 100% real therapy sessions. There was no scripting whatsoever. And you got to really see a true therapeutic experience unfold. Well, with one of those clients, she was identified as Kristy on the show. And I'm not talking about her personal story, although there's full releases and it has been chronicled already in her story. But I'm just referencing that episode in case you want to go back and watch it. But with Kristy, I used a technique that I oftentimes use in my work with clients, and it is really a way to process through strong emotions so that you can not only tolerate it, but you can actually work through it and you gain a whole bunch of information regarding what's going on with your own internal process, and it helps your psyche to shift through into this wonderful place of greater well-being as a result of moving through and into the emotion. So I am going to tell you a little bit about this term called scribble drawing. It's actually a technique that was introduced to me many, many years ago by a wonderful therapist, Dr. Gail White in San Diego, California. And okay, so let's talk about why I really love using scribble drawing and why I think that it is so helpful. So I'm going to step back and give you a little bit of very simplified psychoed regarding emotions and what helps us to move through it in a healthy, adaptive manner. Well, the most important thing to remember is that emotions are completely normal. Okay, we're all born with emotional processes. And it's really important to remember that just like breathing or other kind of physical systemic functions, we have to be able to support our emotional processes to happen naturally so our system can move through those emotions in the way that it was meant to be so that it is adaptive and helpful to our system instead of us artificially thwarting it, which is not what our system needs. So the first thing is emotions are natural, even the ones on the negative side. So rage and anger and frustration, believe it or not, is just as natural, helpful, and necessary as emotions like joy and happiness and love. Okay. The second component is that emotions are energy. Okay, that's why when we feel anxiety or we feel anger or we feel guilt or we feel rage, we actually feel this kind of energy inside of us that needs to be released. Okay. So the second is that emotions are energy. Okay. The third component is that what is most helpful is when we acknowledge the energy component of an emotion, but then we allow ourselves to couple it with putting words, therefore meaning, to our emotional energy experience. Okay. When we couple both of these together, the energy of the emotion and then putting words and meaning to it, we bring it together, that's the most powerful way to help an emotion continue to process forward to the ultimate place of getting to a space of resolution and well-being. Okay, so we want to be able to put words to our experience of emotional energy. And then we want to do it in some way that is motoric, right? So some way that is helping us kind of process through in a way that it helps us move forward and through instead of a more passive process, like just thinking about an emotion, just kind of ruminating about it. Okay. So the first thing is that all emotions are natural. They are inherent to our system. They're like breathing. Okay. Second is that emotions are energy. Okay. And therefore we have to work with emotions, really using the energy of the emotion to be most effective. It's imperative that we assign words, meaning, understanding to our emotional process. Okay. And that we do something that is motoric, something that is physical, that helps us process through those emotions in an active way. So our psyche can do what it naturally does, and that's process through in a way that's going to bring us to resolution and a state of well-being. Okay. Scribble drawing does all of that, and it does a couple other positive byproducts that I'll also mention. Okay, so what are materials that we need for scribble drawing? It's super basic, super easy. If you have kids, you probably already have these materials. If you don't, you can just order it online. You can order it through Walmart or Michael's or Amazon, whatever you need. So we've got a couple of items, and that is going to be, first and foremost, drawing paper. Okay, so we want to use drawing paper because drawing paper is thick. We don't want to use newsprint because if we use newsprint, it's going to be too thin and you are going to scribble through the paper, which is going to make you a little bit freaked out because you're going to feel like your emotion was too big and it ruined the paper. So make sure that you give yourself the absolute pleasure of really, really thick drawing paper. And then the other thing that we want to do is to have, similarly, really thick crayons. Okay, so these are the crayons that we used in kindergarten. I love it because when you apply a lot of pressure, it's not going to break. Again, if the crayons are too thin and your normal level of emotionality breaks it, you're going to feel like, oh my goodness, these emotions were too big and too much, and that's just not going to be true. Okay, so lastly, I want to make sure that the drawing paper is big enough. Okay, I think that this is at least 17 by 11. And the reason why is because we don't want to restrict ourselves. Sometimes people try to do it by using 8 by 10 lined paper, and it just is too darn constricting. I want it to be big and bold so you can really let those feelings out. Okay, so granted, I have never done this before like this. I did this before with a camera crew that was just really awesome. They were able to get all the shots, and I was able to just really work with my client and not worry about any of this other silliness. But what the heck, it's 10 years later and we're on YouTube. So anyways, okay. So I always sit on the floor because to me it is the most disinhibited. And when I'm working with a client, I sit on the floor with that client because I want to be in the experience with them. I also am right there holding the space with them. I'm encouraging them and supporting them through. What I always encourage the people that I work with to do at home is to make sure that you are in a safe and emotionally kind of safe space where you know that no one's going to interrupt you and you feel just completely free to just let these feelings out without being seen, without being judged, without being interrupted. So find a nice place. Sometimes people literally do it in their closets, they do it in their bedrooms. It doesn't matter where, just as long as you can really let yourself free and go. So the very first thing we're going to do when we take these crayons is we are just going to pick a color. Don't worry, no one's going to analyze what the color is. Just whatever your psyche feels drawn to is the way that I recommend that people do it. I am going to take this nice red one, and I am right-handed, so I picked it up with my left hand, and that is known as your non-dominant hand. Now, I get asked all the time, why do I need to use my non-dominant hand? And the reason is this: we want to tap into your emotions, and we want to really do it in such a way where we bypass as many of your inhibitions and your defense mechanisms as possible. So we are, when we are using our non-dominant hand, that means that we are going into the, usually the right brain, let's say, because I'm right-handed, right? So if I do with my right hand, I'm going into the left brain, which is going to be more language and more logic. If I use my left hand, I'm going to go more into my right brain, when that's going to be more intuition and creativity. And that's going to be more where those subconscious processes come from, okay? So you want to use your non-dominant hand. I take this piece of paper, and we want to put it right in front of us. I'm going to back up a little bit so I can maybe get a little bit more angle here, if possible. Okay. And then what we want to do is we want to sit in front of the sheet of paper, and we're going to close our eyes. Closing your eyes is another way of not allowing your inhibitions or your defense mechanisms to come into play. If you have your eyes open, you're going to say, oh my gosh, I'm being self-conscious. Number one, I'm going to go off the piece of paper. You might also say, oh my gosh, what does this mean? It means I'm really angry, and you're going to start analyzing that within yourself. And we don't want you to analyze this at all. The only thing that matters with this exercise is that you are giving yourself permission to let your feelings out, okay? So what I like to say is it's very much like you connect up to your emotions, and then you allow kind of like those emotions to come out like a hose. It's just allowing the pressure of those emotions to come out. That's the sole purpose of this, is to just allow the physicality of the emotion to come out, okay? So literally what you're going to do is you are going to work to connect up to the emotion inside, okay? So it might be an issue, it might be a feeling, it might be something that has happened that you have a lot of feelings and emotions about, and you want to focus on that. Then what you want to do is you just want to connect up with the physicality of the emotion, okay? Just the physicality of it. And we don't need to worry about analyzing any of it. That's not what this is about. We're going to close our eyes, and we're going to go over the piece of paper, and we're literally just going to let ourselves scribble. Okay, scribble, 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 scribble. And I say, until you are sweating, until your arm hurts, until it just feels like that emotion is released, and you will feel it, okay? I can even feel it just being kind of hot with just releasing that. But many times you're going to go more, longer than this, okay? And then what you're going to do, without missing a beat, you're going to then turn this around. You're going to put the crayon in your dominant hand so you can actually write, and then you are just going to write whatever comes to mind, okay? So if it's anger, then what you want to do is say, I am feeling anger, and then you're going to talk about what you're feeling anger about. I'm feeling anger about the fact that this happened to me when I was a kid. I'm feeling anger about what my partner said to me. I'm feeling anger that I can't get this right, okay? So you're just going to write, okay? Don't think about it, don't analyze it. And then you're going to take the crayon in your left hand, and then you're going to do it again. Close your eyes and just let that feeling out, okay? And then, okay, right. Okay. During this time, you're going to have emotion, okay? There's going to be a lot of energy that's going on, okay? And you want to just continue with it. And then you want to do it again. Okay? And then you're going to turn it over. And then you're going to write. Okay? So what we've got then is we've got energy going out, getting discharged. Just energy. Then what we've got is we are going to put words and meaning to it. We're not going to judge it. We're going to let it just tumble out. We're going to write. Then we're going to let another energy out. Then we're going to flip it over and we're going to write. And then we're going to do it again. Okay. We always do this in sets of 3s. Okay. It is not uncommon to do 15, 18 of these in a setting when you've got something that you're really needing to release. And you're going to know that you're done because you are just going to feel this sense of release and just like you're spent, but you're calm. Okay. I call this also purging on paper. Okay. So we use this for lots of different things. We use this for allowing feelings to come out. We allow this for if there's like a behavior, a compulsive behavior that you want to engage in, and you're really trying not to do it instead of simple distracting, which is just going to be kind of a temporary Band-Aid. This is a deeper way to tap into the emotion, right? And to be able to kind of get the emotion out and work yourself through it, all right? And I guarantee when you're done with this, if you keep going, that compulsion is going to go away. If you have a compulsion to binge eat and you're trying to fight that compulsion, or if you've got a compulsion to purge, if you struggle with bulimia, this is going to be very, very helpful to work through those times. Okay? Now, the other benefit of this, okay, but I don't want you to think about this when you're doing it, but the other benefit of this is this, that when you're done with all of this, if and when you want to go back through it, or maybe bring this into your therapist if you are in individual therapy, what you're going to find is that whatever it was that was about the resentment or the rage or was what was compelling you to reach towards food is going to be represented in the words, okay? So a lot of times you might start out with a current thing. I'm so angry about my boss. I'm so angry about the situation. I feel so out of control. I feel so fearful. If you keep following it, what's going to end up happening is it's going to tap into what's really there, okay, what it's really about. And then you're going to bring in that identification of what that key issue is. And then you're going to be able to start working on it, which is super, super effective, okay? So that was the byproduct that I was talking about. One of the byproducts, okay, is being able to identify what is really going on when it's been mired down in an unconscious or subconscious process. The other thing that's super, super helpful with this is this. When we process through an emotion, our psyche always is trying to get to a state of well-being, okay? Always. It's like our physicality is always trying to get to compensate for what's going on in our body, and it's always trying to repair itself and maintain a space of physical health and well-being. It's the same thing with our psyche. So when we allow ourselves to actually go through an emotion instead of avoid it, okay, sidestep it, suppress it, if we go through that emotion, what ends up happening is we shift that place of well-being, okay? So even if it's an event that happened a traumatic event, let's say, in your past, and you work through the emotions, and it's not going to be quite as simple as this. There's certainly lots of pieces to resolution of trauma and past pieces. But what will end up happening is you will get eventually to the point of reconciliation. Okay, I know that happened. I am safe now. Or I'm no longer helpless. I am an adult. All right. Or I can take care of myself now in a way that I couldn't take care of myself in the past. So it helps facilitate your psyche to get to its own natural sense of processing through. Okay. So that's what scribble drawing is. And I will give you the qualifier that this is a psychoeducational piece. This, believe it or not, is an emotion regulation technique. I would encourage you, if you are in therapy, to maybe run this by your therapist before utilizing this, just to be extra special careful. But this is kind of the rhyme and a reason behind the scribble drawing activity, and a demonstration of what it looks like. So it's a big Dr. Julie nudge of encouragement. I hope that it's helpful. I'm sure that we'll talk about some of this in video casts where we provide education. And yeah, thanks for watching. Thanks for watching 10 years ago when this concept was first introduced through What's Eating You. And thanks for kind of keeping up with the growth and the work that I've done through the years. So anyways, okay, take care. I hope this is helpful.